Rito Master himself, Luis Scott-Vargas. So let's jump into the action here, my friend.
The Burrito Master. I like that. That's a good
Mhm.
brand to have attached to your name, I must say.
All right, well, getting things underway here, taking a look at the opening hands. A pretty nice looking hand here for Luis Scott-Vargas at the bottom of the screen. Stan Cifka is on top of the screen, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the major card that I want everyone to focus on to start this is listening to what Monty was telling us earlier. It's basically an adventure deck that Stan's playing, and Extinction Event. They're all odd. So being able to just cleanly answer that many creatures with Extinction Event here is going to be very important. Probably the most important card in LSV's hand and deck.
Looks like Stan's having a little bit of trouble deciding what card to send back after a mulligan. And goes to keep Edgewell Innkeeper, Winota Joiner Forces, and 3 lands. So would love to find a non-human to be able to get that proc off of Winota. Finds a Branch Love Pathway off the top.
Yeah, the double mulligan there, definitely brutal, but LSV is not out of the woods either. Bottoming a non-land, really looking for a couple of lands as well for LSV.
Yep, finds another copy of Doom Foretold, though that's not what the doctor ordered. As he passes the turn back, another Edgewell Innkeeper found, but no adventure action just yet for Stan Cifka.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if Stan wants to just fire off double Innkeeper, and then the dream would be just draw any 3-mana adventure creature. You know, you would even take a Giant Killer, you know, at this point to be able to draw a bunch of cards. Or if you want to play a little conservative and not, you know, throw both of them out there into a possible Extinction Event.
Yeah, Extinction Event's going to be in the back of Stan Cifka's mind as he determines what his play is going to be here for the first action of the game.
Yeah, and LSV, you know, has Negate in hand, which only has a small amount of targets. The adventure side on the adventure creature, or the spell side on the adventure creatures, or the 2 copies of the Great Henge. But otherwise, that card's probably being sided out as well. That was a nice one.
Oh, yes. There we go.
Ooh.
Omen of the Sea takes a look at the top, finds 2 non-land cards. So going to send those to the bottom does Luis. Finds a Skyclave Apparition, and again, that is not what you want to find. Neither is a second copy of Winota Joiner of Forces. So both players fumbling a little bit with their draws.
Yeah, this is where Luis is probably turning to Gabby and be like, see, I'm never lucky. It's proof right here. Yeah.
There we go. There's a land. Clearwater Pathway off the top. Last Casket's going to be the first protocol, though, for Luis. Going to grab one of these Edgewell Innkeepers just in case of an adventure creature next turn.
Yep, good call. Just trying to play anything to mediate the battlefield, since LSV does not have too many options, or really any besides that Glass Casket or putting Yorion into hand. So once again, really needs a land off the top.
Certainly does, as Edgewell Innkeeper swings in there for a mighty 1 point of damage. Winota Joiner of Forces joins post-combat.
Ooh, I should have been specific about which kind of land LSV wanted. That was my fault.
Oh, you jinxed him. Feels bad, man.
Feels bad, man, indeed. But to be fair, it's not a ton of pressure coming back because, like you said, Innkeeper is a human as well. So right now, Stan's draw is nothing to be super excited about, even though LSV is struggling. Next turn, he's not going to be struggling too much anymore.
Oh, no. Being able to either fire off Extinction Event to deal with Winota or get Doom Foretold rocking. Even Skyclave Apparition is an option here. Like, what do you? What's the thought process here for Luis?
Yeah, I think me personally, you nailed it at the end there. Playing a Skyclave to take out one of these things, but Doom Foretold is definitely the second best. Extinction Event is the one card that I'd want to hang on to get a little bit more value. Hopefully, get at least a 2-for-1. 2-for-1s with that cards are still completely fine.
For sure, as we see Doom Foretold hit the battlefield, the most mana efficient play from Luis. It's going to force a sacrifice on one of these creatures.
Yeah, and the one thing we're going to see here, almost no matter what Stan sacrifices, maybe inclined to sacrifice Winota since you have another one. Regardless, there's going to be a Winota in play when LSV untaps, you know, barring some kind of great top deck and sacrificing the Winota, which means Elspeth Conquers Death is just going to be a nice, clean answer to a creature as well. and then they sack another thing to Doom Foretold. So things are looking really good for LSV so far.
Ooh, nice. Good call there to sacrifice the Winota, finding a Love-Struck Beast off the top of the library. So we will get some value off of this Edgewall Innkeeper before it bites the dust.
Yeah, getting to draw a card here is huge.
All right. So, big threat on the battlefield for Stan Cifka. Like we mentioned, though, there is an Elspeth Conqueror's Death, so that will likely clean up the Love-Struck Beast. Unless we just go for Extinction Avenger, 2 for 1.
Exactly. Yeah, here's that spot where it's a nice 2-for-1, and not only is it just a 2-for-1, you get to almost assuredly activate Doom Foretold on Stan's turn, since you can't sacrifice tokens to it. So more than likely, Stan has to discard that pathway as well, and another card for LSV. So everything's looking pretty good here.
Yeah, really nice turn there for Luis. Stan Cifka finds a Kazandu Mammoth off the top.
Yep, and now that Stan is playing a threat and only has one threat and isn't kind of snowballing threats here, the Doom Foretold deck is extremely good at dealing with stuff on a 1-for-1 basis. So if you don't have to deal with, 5 rogues at a time like we saw last round when you were William Huey Jensen, when you can just deal with one threat here, I think this is going to be near impossible for Stan to wiggle out of here.
I have to agree with you there, as Elspeth Conqueror's Death comes on down and deals with that Mammoth. Giant Killer drawn off the top here. Winota's still in hand for Stan Cifka, but things are not looking really good here for the Czech player.
Yeah, not the best here. And you got to think that Stan, along with basically everybody else in this tournament, wasn't expecting Esper Doom Foretold to be the best deck, the #1 play deck or anything. It was kind of on the decline thanks to all these different flavor of Dimir decks that were popping up. So I wouldn't expect that this is Stan's favorite matchup to play right now.
Yeah, no kidding. Just so many answers in this Doom Foretold deck. Like you mentioned, just being able to answer everything on a 1-to-1 basis. Doom Foretold going to come down now and force a sacrifice on this Winota, so not much being left over for Stan Cifka to try and cobble a win together.
Yep, and one thing we saw last round where you could flash in rogues with the trigger on the stack, there's no creatures that Stan can flash in to protect Winota or anything, so just going to have to sacrifice something at the upkeep as the card is designed to do.
Bone Crusher Giant's the draw. Nice answer for this little knight here. Getting stomped on. Now, Luis had an option there to either leave up the negate or to play Maze Mind Tome. You could see him kind of deliberating over it. Maybe that instance where you wish I'd kept up a negate there, but...
Yeah, quite possibly. I also think Stan, I wouldn't say Stan had an oversight there, but the ECD tax was going on there, so you couldn't necessarily stomp plus Bone Crusher. But with only one mountain, that's really not possible anyways, so probably fine.
For sure. You know what I want to see, Corey?
A Hardcast Shark?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
how do you know?
Because I listened to Marshall and Paul say I want to have a Hardcast Shark, probably, for 3 games in a row, and chat seems to agree with you and Marshall and Paul. So here we go.
Sharks. Let's go. Oh, hey, Basbury's Lieutenant.
LSV is really nice to all of us. It just gives us what we need.
Exactly. Might not be the best thing to do, according to Paul, but, him and Paul can argue about it later. I want to see some sharks.
We'll see when the scoreboard is done with this game if it's the right play or not. Because, result-oriented thinking is exactly what you should do all the time. So
you get flying sharks. Come on, Corey.
Hey, I'm with you. I want to see it too. And it's going to be very good here.
Good. Giving back the Edgewall Innkeeper just for a brief moment in time, as we're going to see Skyclave Apparition come on down. Nick one of these threats. It's going to be the bigger of the 2 creatures, the 4/5 Basri's Lieutenant. And a good blink target for Yorion's Sky Nomad when it eventually makes its way onto the battlefield, if the game even goes that long.
Yeah, and a really interesting thing here, most of the time you would think with Doom Foretold going off in Stan's upkeep, why wouldn't you hit the smaller creature with Skyclave to lessen that blow? But the thing is, if you do it the other way around, you sack Basri Lieutenant, and that gives you a 2/2 creature if you do it the other way. So a smart play by LSV to control the battlefield a little bit more.
Right. Kazandu Mammoth comes on down, more Sharks, Bonecrusher Giant joins the fray. And we're very close to seeing an Amerio's Call fired off.
Sharks, Angels working together. What a time to be alive.
What a time. Elspeth Nightmare drawn, but we're going to go for the Amerio's Call. Here come 2 Angels. You know what's better than flying Sharks? Flying indestructible Sharks.
Yeah, no kidding. Look at that interaction there. I don't think I've ever done that, where you cast an Amelia's Call. First, you get a 7/7 Sharkin. Why not? Let's make it indestructible with the Angel's Blessing there. So, man, are Marshall and Paul jealous of us right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. As we're going to see Kazandu Mammoth swing on in here, take a look, finds a Winota. It doesn't matter at this point. Stan Cifka is just like, yep, I'm dead to Sharks. Let's go to game number 2. So after this short break, we're going to join the players at sideboarding to see how game number 2 shakes out between them.
If you're a fan of cheap, efficient red removal, you might want to go to your corner store and pick up a 4-pack of Scorching Dragonfire. Maria, talk to us about why Scorching Dragonfire is such an icon of Standard.
Well, they can't all be in the main deck, Sean. The sideboard a lot of times is just as important, and that's where Scorching Dragonfire lives the most often. You'll see it in Cruel Adventures as a 4 of in the sideboard, Temur Ramp, decks like this, and it is so important that exile clause on this, especially talk about Lurrus, talk about taking out Kroxa, maybe even the Scavenging Ooze, making that irrelevant. How about an Annex exiling instead of just killing this thing? Plus, it kills anything that's relevant in a mirror match, or if you're playing against one of these decks like a Kazandu Mammoth, Edgewell, Innkeeper, get out of here, Bonecrusher Giant, you are DED.
You know, there's a lot of decks that this can be very effective against, but Riley, in your eyes, what is one that would be a nightmare to play against Scorching Dragonfire with?
Any deck that's looking to get on the ground early, looking to get you dead, or DED, as Maria is saying, is very, very, you know, it lives in fear of cheap interaction like Scorching Dragonfire. So the Cruel Adventures of the world, the mono reds, they really don't want to see 2 mana interaction that will kill, or importantly, exile. It's EXYL, a creature of theirs that they're deploying, you know, early in the game.
Indeed, Riley Knight, an icon of spelling, and indubitably Scorching Dragonfire, an icon of Standard.
Welcome back to the Zendikar Rising Championship. We are going to rejoin Luis Scott-Vargas and Stan Cifka as they sideboard against each other. Luis picking up the win in the first game there. What do you think of that match so far?
You know, it was a little hard to grasp just by the mulligans from Stan, and then the top of Stanislav Cifka's deck was not kind to him either. You know, had those double innkeepers, if you were to draw an adventure creature on curve into Winota, things would have looked a lot different. But that being said, I do think these Esper Doom decks are built to beat Gruul Adventures, right? Like that's supposed to be your good matchup. And this feels pretty similar to Gruul Adventures with just a little cool kick. But for the most part, it's still that style of aggressive deck that you do have a ton of answers for from the Esper Doom side. So I think it kind of played out as we're going to expect. But with Stanislav Cifka on the play, that's going to be a huge advantage here.
Yeah, so ideally for Stan, he's hoping to get some of his non-humans down, like the Lotus Cobra, get a turn 3 Winota potentially, and just try and flood the board with, you know, the powerful humans in Basri's Lieutenant. And just, try and get underneath Luis as quick as you can.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, hitting a Basri's Lieutenant off Winota, is amazing. It's awesome. That's a great play. That's what we've seen, you know, in Standards history, even a little while back, as far as like a year ago. But outside of that, you don't have any gigantic hits to be hitting here. King Kenrith or something like that in the deck list. So it really is just a value creature and a 4-mana 4/4. Still not bad.
Yeah, you mentioned Kenrith, and before that it was Agent of Treachery, everyone's favorite thieving rogue. I say with disdain, as I hated
Favorite,
that card.
quote unquote. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't miss that one at all. Just saying. But
I do.
You do? Oh,
yeah.
Corey, we can't be friends anymore.
What? Okay, well, for the sake of that, I'll say I don't miss it. But Jeskai Luka, come on. Anyone? You get to play Yorion and Fires of Invention? That was my fave, so.
Oh, no. Oh, no. You've fallen from grace.
I'll take it back for the sake of our friendship. That's much more important to me than Agent of Treachery, so.
Okay, good.
All right.
Right. Yeah, so we see from the sideboard Luminarch Aspirant being brought in from Stan Cifka, another human cleric that keeps putting counters on things. Now, if you can get away with that and not have it removed off the battlefield, that's a great threat. You know,
Yeah.
Basri's Lieutenant, it's a pretty neat interaction. If anything with a counter on it is killed, it creates a knight token, but those knights aren't humans, so those also trigger Winota, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, no, Basri's Lieutenant really does work well with Winota, and a disciplined mulligan there, you know, 7 cards, having 5 lands. That 5th land is basically already a mulligan from Stan's deck. You really have to curve out pretty nicely in these style of aggressive decks to be good. And we just look on the other side, and Luis just has a nice one right there.
Oh, yes. Removal, card draw.
2 lands, that's enough. Yep, it's a good one.
Scryland to help find the 3rd one. So yeah, looks pretty good now. This hand from Stan, he's deliberating over it. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to keep it going down to 5 again, but yeah, this hand is not good, especially with how awkward the mana is. Fabled Passage to decide if you want to cast your Selfless Saviors, your good dogs, or if you want to cast Edgewall Innkeeper. You can't really decide on both. I think you have to go with the Plains just because you have more. You know, more Selfless Saviors, but it's pretty rough.
Yeah, and then just hope you draw your lands to get Winota out as soon as possible and find those creatures, because the onus is on Stan to get this game won and done as quick as he can.
And excuse me, I think I have to get the stuff out of my eyes here. Am I seeing a Baneslayer Angel? What year is it again?
You sure are seeing a Baneslayer Angel.
That is nice. I mean, that makes sense against these Gruul adventure decks. Was probably the main target for this kind of card. There's not many ways to deal with that outside of the Akroan War from the Gruul adventure side, and we don't leave that card in against Esper Doom. So that is a spicy one.
Flying, first strike, lifelink, protection from demons and dragons.
Yes.
Hey.
A card that I believe won Brian Kibler a Pro Tour back in Austin, Texas, a long time ago.
Very nice. So the lands are being at least a little bit compliant and arriving on time here for Stan Cifka, as we're going to see Omen of the Sea played after the Edgewall Innkeeper and Selfless Savior hit the battlefield. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah, that was a big
Extinction
draw.
event.
That was a big draw that was really needed, that forest, but I would still think that this is a tough one. It's going to be an interesting turn for Luis. He has 2 great plays. Okay. I guess with perfect information, I think I would have Elspeth's Nightmared, because the chapter 2 was actually going to finally get something in the form of Vivian, but without perfect information, that is still a very strong target as well.
Still a 2-for-1. You like those.
We like those indeed.
So Bonecrusher Giant now down on the battlefield, going to hope to get a trigger off on Winota, but nope, says LSV. Elspeth conquers death down on the battlefield, exiling that Bonecrusher Giant.
Yep, all the game is going to be about, if you're Luis Scott-Vargas, is just making sure that your opponent cannot untap and trigger Winota. And I mean, that's still pretty bad. I bet Luis is going to be regretting casting ECD there instead of Skyclave Apparition to be able to, ECD the Vivian now. But oh, let's go! It's Baneslayer time.
Oh yeah. Here comes the big ol' angel. That's going to want to get rid of Vivian as quickly as possible because now we're going to see a Winota trigger if this poor little beast decides to go to its death at the hands of Baneslayer Angel. I don't know about that, but, you know, what else is he going to do?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, the one thing that Stan does have going for him is these Vivian creatures, like we see the heads-up play from Stan even before Baneslayer came in, it can give him reach, and that is the counter that is on this one. So you can give another 3/3 reach. Now, thanks to the first strike ability, 2 3/3s would normally take down the 5/5, but that is not the case here. But goes for the down tick on Vivian.
So Winota into what, I wonder?
Me too. We can get a Mammoth, Innkeeper, Selfless Savior. None of these seem great. None of these are taking care of a Baneslayer Angel, that's for sure.
Does anything in the deck take care of the Baneslayer Angel, I wonder?
Not that I'm seeing here.
Chainwebber Raknir, if those came in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Glotus Cobra. It's a snack.
Just to get another Winota trigger, I guess?
Yeah. And start playing creatures off the top of the library courtesy of Vivian. Nice.
Okay.
All
Trying
right.
to go wide on this Baneslayer here.
I like it. I can dig it.
And getting in there. Hits the best
Razzie
possible.
Lieutenant. Oh, nice. All right, so now that there's a counter on it, we're going to get a 2/2 off of this beast dying.
Really interesting play from Stan. This does allow Baneslayer to just go kill Vivian, but Stan realizing, you know, just 1 3/3 a turn is only a small band-aid to deal with this Baneslayer. You got to go wide and just hope Winota's good enough. Now, one thing that is going to be interesting that we're going to see, Luis Scott-Vargas does not know about Stan's hand, right? So exiling this Winota here is exactly what Stan wanted because there is another Winota and we're going to actually get some triggers here. So all of a sudden, I think Stan is ahead right now.
Yeah, we're going to get 2 triggers here off the Bone Crusher Giant as well as the Knight.
Yes.
And hope to find some more Bazzi's Lieutenants to get some counters on these creatures.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Basri's Lieutenant is like the only really strong target. Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah,
No,
these
Limonog
are...
Aspirants.
Yeah, those out of the sideboard are, you know, they're targets. They're not great, but...
They put counters on things, importantly. Unfortunately, missed that phase, though, so they'll have to do it the next turn round and hope that there's no extinction event or something from Luis.
Yeah, you said the magic card here that Luis is trying to channel to his top of his deck is just Extinction Event. Extinction Event.
Not 2 glass caskets, not too shabby.
Yep.
And take care of some of this battlefield.
It's probably time for Baneslayer Angel to stay home and start doing some blocking here, but glass casketing a couple of these creatures, maybe the creatures that trigger off Winota, definitely going to be something you want to consider.
Yeah, for sure. Otherwise, you know, there's no triggers if we get rid of the Knight as well.
Exactly.
The Limonog Aspirants are a problem. They need to be answered, but the only thing that triggers Winota left on the battlefield is the 2/2 Knight.
And the one extra benefit of targeting the 2/2 here is you have that kind of empty glass casket here, where when you ever play Yorion, then you can exile that glass casket to hit one of the aspirants later.
Yeah.
But without Yorion actually in LSV's hand, it's still a couple of turns away outside of LSV just drawing a Yorion.
Yeah. Right, so we're going to get a counter here from the Limonog Aspirant on this Knight, which is now going to effectively replace itself unless LSV is happy to let it go through. But hey, 5 life is 5 life.
Yeah, that's a really, really cute interaction there. Just nonstop string of 2/2 Winota triggers. Really cool.
So what do we find off the top here? Which human is coming out to play?
Yeah, no kidding. Looks like we got something. Otherwise, we wouldn't be hesitating, I imagine.
Go, Eddie, go! You can do it, little guy.
Yeah, who would have guessed Stanislav Cifka has some really cool interaction in one of his decks? I am just completely shocked about that. Just kidding. He always does.
I know he's built some of the best decks in the last couple of years. Decks that have won Players Tours and Mythic Championships, you know, you name it, he's probably done it in terms of deck building.
100%. And one of the decks that one of my good friends is still playing in this event, Brian Brown doing, playing some Kethis action. He loves that deck, so.
All right. So, first things first, we're going to draw. We're going to find a Doom Foretold, is Luis.
Big draw step with Heartless Act. The Doom Foretold, gonna be good, but Heartless Act here, getting rid of Winota or getting rid of the Aspirant, really kind of picking anything would be pretty good. Winota seems like the slam dunk target, but...
Nice, I love this. In response. Winota taken care of. No secondary backup for Stan Cifka this time around. And this 3 through the Counteron's not going to be doing much. Not
too much, and you don't really want to Heartless Act Winota with the attack trigger on the stack, just because you still get the human there is one reason to not do that.
Yeah. So now we see Doom Foretold come on down, Temple of Enlightenment, scries the land to the bottom. And again, just sitting back, staying at home.
Yeah, unreal. This one of Baneslayer just was... I don't know another card that would have saved LSV in a position like this. Just really heads up magic to go through the gather search and be like, all right, I can bring back Baneslayer. What a pro.
It's such a big threat. I mean, just looking at the list, the only thing I think kills it is Giant Killer.
Yeah. Yep, and yeah, that is a great answer to it. But I'm very curious how many of those Stanislavka actually left in. You know, it does hit Yorion, it hits Baneslayer, but outside of that, you know, a giant shark or something. But those aren't the best card in this matchup either.
Yeah.
And remind everybody, LSV is at the top of the leaderboard for the Rivals Leagues right now, in first place, tied with Matt Sperling. So a lot to play for if you're LSV right now.
Doom Foretold, sacrificing the Maze Mind Tome, finds a Omen of the Sea off the top. When are we going to see the Sky Noodle? Here we go. It's time.
Yeah, 8 mana is just like when I always perk up in my seat when I'm playing this deck, because it's like, ooh, I get to look at my Sky Noodle and see if it's time for that. And spoiler alert, it's always time for the Sky Noodle.
It's always time. Let's go. Let's blink everything. I mean, if not, why not?
I think maybe hold back one of the caskets here. The nice little trick that I'm guessing Luis is setting up here is glass casketing the 4/4 illusion. So that creates that quote unquote empty glass casket here. Or maybe not. Okay. Takes out Innkeeper to stop the card draw, but that was an option. And then you have the empty glass casket for future Yorions to blink it a little bit later.
Oh, hello, Extinction Event.
No big deal.
Oh man, he can call even and not have his battlefield affected at all.
Yeah, I see a trend on LSB's side of the battlefield, and Stan is not having it.
It's not going to matter at all. Luis Scott-Vargas picking up the victory there with Esper Doom Foretold just being far too much for Stan Cifka to